Hey there, YouTubers. Mr. Ben here, El Cid, and with another video. And this time I want to talk to you about the challenges of living here in Korea. I was with a group of friends this weekend, and the question always comes up is whatever brought you to Korea, and everybody has their reason. Everybody has whatever problems that they had back home that they just want to go over here and try something different, something new. For young people, a lot of times it's that adventures. You want to come over here, you want to teach some children, get some experience, and then travel overseas. For other people, it's just basically you're starting life over, all over again. So let me get into some of these challenges that you're going to run into if you decide that you're going to come over here to Korea. And I'm going to teach more, or I'm sorry, I'm going to talk more about the teaching side of it simply because I've never been in the other kinds of jobs other than working for a company. But I'm going to get into the teaching side of it is because that's where the most problems seem to kind of lies within the teachers sectors of working over here in Korea. Now, first of all, by no means am I a lawyer, and by no means am I going to bash Korea, but I will be very frank with you about what I'm going to tell you. Korea is a very wonderful place to live, but you have to understand. You have to understand it's a completely different and unique culture than what you're used to in the West. Okay? It's nothing like back home. That's one of the biggest misconceptions, or I guess the problems that a lot of people face is that they really believe that it's somehow something similar to what it's like back in Kansas. It's not. It's not. It's a completely different culture. You cannot apply logic where there is no logic. That's a simple explanation. Another thing that I want to tell you is that here in Korea, we've got a unique saying that we call Korea. We call Korea the land of the almost right. And what we mean by that is when you look at something, it looks like it's done correctly. It looks like it's done by the book, by all the specs. But when you closely inspect it, well, guess what? That's when you start running into, well, maybe this light socket doesn't work. Maybe this plug doesn't work. Well, the bathroom light is on the wrong side of the door. These things that we're used to in Western culture, these things are very obviously, when you get over here, they're very different. So let's get into this at this time. And the very first point that I want to bring up to you is that if you decide to come over here, man, you got to have some guts. You've got to be tough. You can't sit there and come over here and be weak minded and sit there and be very sensitive to whatever your problems are. No, no, the opposite, the absolute opposite. You've got to be a tough cookie. You got to be able to endure. And let me give you a good example. One is that Korea is a drinking culture, and Koreans like to drink. And so every whatever, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, usually the group, whether you're working at a school or whether you're working in an office, usually go out and drink somewhere. And there's always usually a second round. So if you're not a very good drinker, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get drunk very easy, and you're going to end up spending a lot of time in the bathroom or just not very happy the next morning because you're hungover all the time. This is very common in Korea. The other thing is that I'm going to warn all of you right now. If you have any kind of substance abuse problem, and I mean, if you like to have your little toke here or your little toke there and you think it's not harmful, don't even think about coming here. Don't even think about coming over here. And let me explain to you. There are more narcs than there are drug users. What that means is basically there are more people trying to entrap you into using drugs so they can kick you out of the country. Or you're going to spend time in jail. So if you have any kind of issues, don't even try it. The other issue as far as keeping your head on straight and being able to handle things is that if you're an English teacher or you work in a company, criticism is very heavy here. You know, in the beginning they try to sugarcoat it, and then after a while, if you're not catching on and you don't get it, guess what? Man, it can come fast and furious, and it can be quite painful. And that's the last thing you want to hear is you want to go home on a Friday evening with half your kids, their mothers, complaining that you're not a very good teacher. So you've got to be able to have that thick skin to be able to endure it. You know, and I'm not even going to sit there and talk to you about, well, I'll lightly mention this, but when you first get over here, there are the medical conditions. The air here is filthy. It's absolutely filthy. The yellow dust that comes over and the factory air that comes over from China, it gives you what we call is the Korean crud. The Korean crud means basically is that you have this drip and sinuses are always blocked up. Every time you blow your nose, you got this yellow and black stuff all in your mucus, and it's just absolutely horrible. The other thing that your body's got to get used to is the food. And again, it's a cultural difference. Just because you ate back home, you ate Korean food, it's not even close. It's not even the same thing, okay? Not even close. It's totally different. The taste is different. It even looks a bit different. You've got bacterias in different areas or different regions. Even in the United States, you have a lot of different bacterias that when your body starts getting in, your body's got to start fighting these. And then what happens is your body gets overwhelmed, and then you have this constant stomach problem. Now, these things normally go away over time because you get more accustomed to it and you're used to it. So yeah, okay, all right, so we've gotten over that. The next thing I want to really touch base on is how the Korean culture is. People, it's nothing like what you're seeing on the Korean dramas. You know, Koreans can be very competitive. They can be very harsh, and that's a lot of it is because they don't really understand the English language, that there's a soft side and a hard side. So a lot of times when they'll say something, they're not trying to be rude to you. They're not trying to be mean to you, but that's just the way it comes out. That's just the way how they learned, or just how the translator has translated it to you, and they're trying to tell you. Next that you have to be concerned about is, and I'm not going to sit there and say that Koreans are racist or they discriminate, but they do in a certain way, but it's their culture. It's not ours. So you can't sit there and go, oh, well, they were racist to me today, or they were. No, people, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. No. Let me give you an example. Over the weekend, one of the guys sat there that I was talking with. He can't seem to hold a job at a school, and he doesn't understand why. And I said, you need to shave that beard off. And he's like, why? Why? Everybody thinks it's cool. Everybody. No, they don't think it's cool. The Koreans will say one thing simply because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But in reality, they mean something else. And this is something, the things in the culture you need to understand. You know, if you're a guy and you're coming over here, either have that thing trimmed down really short or cut it off. Koreans don't like beards. Beards are associated, you know, with gangsters, old-time people, whatever you want to think. You know, you're a hairy bear, you're an animal, and that's what they seem to think about it. So that's an example there. Another point or another area which you need to really consider is the loneliness. And this is the whammy that really gets to people. You got to know how to deal with it. And by having a good solid plan, by knowing what you're here for, why are you here? This is by far one of the best ways to combat the loneliness. And what I mean by that is that it's not like when you were in college where you were 1,000 miles away. You can pick up the phone and call mom, and then I'll be home in 2 days, and blah blah blah. You're in Korea. You know, you're at least 18 hours away from home. Yes, you can pick up the phone, you can use the video, and 2 hours later, you're all depressed and sad again. The loneliness is a killer here. It usually happens after your honeymoon phase. You got the 3 months, 6 months, and all of a sudden the honeymoon wears off, and all of a sudden you realize, you really, really realize you're sitting there in your room and you're going, oh my God, I'm all alone. I'm all alone. There's nobody here to help you. There's nobody here that's going to take care of you. And it's very obvious the very first time that you get sick or you get hurt. Like example, when I hurt my back and I was out for 3 weeks, there was nobody coming over to help me. Nobody. So it's a very, very trying experience, and depression can really set in and it can really have an effect on you. So you got to be aware of that, and you got to be tough to be able to overstand it. And the last thing I want to get onto this video here is I want to talk to you about choosing your friends and choosing your friends correctly. I'm going to do a whole video on this choosing your friends for the simple fact that you have no idea how bad a lot of these foreigners, the expats, can be over here. You have no idea what turncoats, what they'll do for a quick buck. You have no idea how quickly they'll turn around and backstab you to steal a job from you. Uh, a common thing here, is, again, in the teaching industry here, is that you have somebody who wants to go away for a 3-day weekend, but they need somebody to cover. So you hire your buddy, and he goes and he covers for you. The next thing you know, when you come back, everybody loves your buddy, but they don't like you anymore, and you're out of a job. Wow. Yeah, this happens, and it's frequently that it happens. You got to understand, it's a completely different culture. What people don't seem to understand, again, and I'll emphasize this, you cannot put logic where there is no logic. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole. What they do back home and what the court system or what the law says or whatever, guess what? They might. It just may be just the opposite here. You never know. The same thing when people go and they do volunteer work, which if you're on an E2 visa, volunteer work is illegal. Illegal. You cannot do it. You can't go to the comedy club and stand up on the free mic system. Nope, can't do it. You can't go to the orphanage and work for free as an English teacher or as a friend or as a helper. Nope, you can't do it. You have to go down to immigration and get permission from immigration to do this. Okay? So, like I said, there's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of things you can and cannot do. You have to know the culture and you have to know the law. Anyway, I'll stop there for right now. But hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe for me. And if you got a few extra little bucks, don't mind a donation or two. That would be nice. Anyway, thanks a whole lot for viewing my video. I appreciate it, all my subscribers. Thank you again. Thank you, people. God bless. See you soon on the next one. Bye.